Zhang Yi entered the living room where Zhou Kor and Zhou Jaime were chatting, his excitement palpable as he announced that Zhou Jaime was waiting outside. Uncle Yu, still embarrassed by his own bachelorhood, hesitated until Zhang Yi ushered him out, where the two men met the former national sweetheart. The encounter was brief but charged. Zhou Jaime, though not attracted to Uncle Yu's appearance, accepted the situation with a composed smile and introduced herself formally. Zhang Yi declared that the house would become their marital home, promising that he and Zhou Kor would relocate temporarily to avoid intruding on their new life. He explained that the residence, equipped with a fireplace and superior insulation, was far better than Zhou Jaime's own mansion, and urged Uncle Yu to view caring for the house as a duty that would ease his own mind. Before leaving, Zhang Yi gave Uncle Yu a thorough briefing. He urged the mutant to train his super strength and telekinetic abilities, emphasizing that mastery would be essential for self-protection. He warned against naive compassion toward the community's neighbors, reminding him of the recent betrayals and urging him to retain firm authority, especially against any woman's influence. Zhou Kor, having packed her modest belongings, most notably the stockings and underwear Zhang Yi had gifted her, stored them in his alternate dimension storage. Zhang Yi then replenished the kitchen with enough provisions to sustain Uncle Yu and Zhou Jaime for 2 months, underscoring the expectation that the pair would now fend for themselves. Finally, Zhang Yi presented Uncle Yu with a sleek, silver-gray snowmobile, describing it as a generous but reluctant gift, noting its high fuel consumption yet undeniable utility. Overwhelmed, Uncle Yu repeatedly refused, but Zhang Yi insisted, promising that the vehicle would allow him to procure food and reach the shelter if needed. With a flash of light, the snowmobile materialized, its design likened to a supercar on tracks. As Zhang Yi stepped out, he touched the heavy metal door of the 8 million yuan safe house, feeling a mix of relief and nostalgia, and reminded Uncle Yu that visits were always welcome. He then vanished into the snow, leaving behind a house now occupied by the newly united couple. Zhang Yi helped Zhou Kor into the RV and set off toward the new shelter, waving a brief farewell to Uncle Yu and Zhou Jaime. As they drove through endless stretches of ice and snow, Zhou Kor's eyes widened with wonder at the barren landscape, but her excitement turned to a quiet hope when she asked whether the new home was beautiful. Zhang Yi answered that the house was vast and comfortable, reminding her that it was only a temporary loan and that he still held the master key, ready to reclaim it if needed. He warned her that the apocalypse demanded caution, even toward trusted allies, and hinted that someone else now occupied the house. Mid-journey, Zhang Yi pulled the vehicle over, climbed out, and opened a portal to his alternate dimension storage, pulling out a large heap of corpses. He tossed the bodies, among them the dead Kuns and the recognizable figures of Wang Siming, Lin Geng, and Su Hup down a snow-filled ditch, explaining that the original owner of the house had been killed and that the dead would soon be buried by the snow. Zhou Kor stared in shock, her suspicion flaring as she wondered about the fate of the former owner, but Zhang Yi dismissed sentimentality, insisting that human life was cheap in these times. Back in the RV, Zhou Kor's jealousy surfaced when she asked whether the woman beside Zhang Yi might be the one he left behind. He smiled at her pouting lips, calling her a tool of affection and declaring that she was the only person he loved. He praised her youth, beauty, and status as a chief physician, using confident, almost rehearsed words to win her heart. Zhou Kor, overwhelmed by his charm, rested her head on his shoulder and confessed that she knew he liked her, feeling a surge of happiness that contrasted sharply with the bleak world outside. Meanwhile, Uncle Yu, energized by his newly awakened ability to enhance his physique, rubbed his hands together with eager light in his eyes, and Zhou Jaime, now his wife, agreed to follow him wherever he went, fully devoted despite the cold. The chapter ends with Zhang Yi contemplating his selfish choices, yet finding a strange comfort in the affection he has cultivated amid the apocalypse. Zhang Yi steered the snowmobile along the icy banks of the Lujiang River, ferrying Zhou Kor toward Yunkei Manor. The sky darkened as a sudden, oppressive snowfall thickened beyond any natural storm, the flakes seeming to be drawn toward the vehicle as if by an unseen hand. The windshield wipers sputtered uselessly while a massive slab of snow slammed into the snowmobile, prompting Zhou Kor to scream and clutch Zhang Yi's arm. Recognizing the phenomenon as more than a weather anomaly, Zhang Yi's eye flashed white and a shimmering portal opened ahead of them, swallowing the raging blizzard and clearing a narrow path forward. The relief was brief. A towering snow tornado materialized directly in front of the snowmobile, spiraling toward them like a frozen vortex. Without hesitation, Zhang Yi expanded the portal, encasing the vehicle in a 3-meter bubble that instantly nullified the tornado, leaving only gentle flakes to drift down. From behind a nearby drift, Su Chunlei stared in disbelief as his meticulously crafted ice attack vanished, his face paling from the effort required to wield such power. He barked orders for retreat, and his two companions, armed with makeshift guns, scrambled to pull him away from the confrontation. Inside the snowmobile, Zhang Yi slipped on his tactical goggles, retrieved an assault rifle from his alternate dimension storage, and chambered around. He reasoned that the opponent's ice manipulation demanded immense energy, and the sudden cessation of the tornado indicated a severe drain on the attacker. Activating night vision, he scanned the opposite riverbank and identified 3 humanoid silhouettes glowing red with thermal heat. Stepping out onto the snow-covered ground, he fired a burst from the assault rifle, the bullets tearing through the frigid air and striking one of the men's thighs, eliciting a pained cry. Realizing the distance and wind rendered his assault rifle ineffective for precise targeting, Zhang Yi holstered it and drew his cherished sniper rifle, zeroing in on the central figure whose infrared signature burned brightest against the white landscape. The scene held its breath as he prepared to deliver a decisive shot, the clash of supernatural ice and human resolve hanging in the cold air. The encounter left both sides wary. Su Chunlei, drained and humbled, retreated with his remaining men, while Zhang Yi, armed with his dimensional portal and firearms, stood poised to exploit the brief window of advantage. Zhou Kor, trembling yet trusting, clung to Zhang Yi as the snowstorm resumed its eerie hush, each aware that the battle had only revealed the first glimpse of a deeper, unseen threat manipulating ice and snow from the shadows. The river's black water reflected the flickering lights of the portal, a silent promise that the supernatural conflict was far from over.